Since the era of millennials has been recognized and acknowledged, they have been described as entitled, unreliable, narcissistic, and lazy, just to name a few labels. With this short documentary, we will deconstruct the stigma by explaining the generational difference that has caused these stereotypes, as well as the positive changes and accomplishments of millennials aimed towards creating a sustainably efficient and inclusive world. From a young age, many of us were instilled with the idea that we can do anything we want if we only put our minds to it. This rings true, but many of us were led to believe we can have it simply because we want it. Many of us were told by our parents that we were perfect and we could do no wrong. Some of us even received trophies simply for participating, or trivial awards to make us feel better about our poor performance. The type of parents referred to previously are called helicopter parents, better known as a parent who hovers over a child in a way that runs counter to the parent's responsibility to raise a child to independence. These were the parents calling into schools to complain about grades, parents who were on college campuses booking appointments, making decisions and problem solving, things that college-aged students are capable of doing themselves. This, paired with the onset of the self-esteem movement, creates some of the core reasons that federal policies such as No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top were created. These factors encouraged an achievement culture in the millennial generation, in which pressure from increased academic success in other countries created higher emphasis on memorization over skills, and therefore an increase in the amount of homework given to students of all ages, but a lack of focus on developing skills to use as tools in real life. All of these elements created the illusion that you are fail-proof, that there are no consequences for wrongdoing, a false sense of security that is abruptly destroyed when we make it into the working world and our expectations are not met. To put it in different terms, the labels placed upon us by the previous generation, Generation X, are ironically true in a few areas only because the older generation has perpetuated it by creating the environment and values in which it sources from. Not only that, but this generation's values are radically different from other generations in that millennials value meaning over money. They value autonomy over micromanagement, passionate work over obligatory work. Basically, a strong value on getting some kind of fulfillment out of the job other than monetary value. In order to gain more insight and perspective on the hot topic of today's younger generations in the workplace, we interviewed some local citizens of all age groups. Here are some of the questions we asked.
What is a millennial?
There's different generations, like there's the Generation X, there's the baby boomers, and the newest generation that's coming up, that's coming into the workforce right now. So it's like the millennials. It's like the newest group that's coming into the workforce right now.
Yeah.
Generation that was born in the late 90s, not the early 90s, because it seems that people born after me don't have any discipline in the workforce.
Millennium is a 1,000 years. Millennialist, a millennial is a person who is between the ages of 28 and 34 years old, I believe. Am I right?
Are there any stereotypes that you feel are unfairly placed within our generation?
I do believe that a lot of millennials are misjudged just because of their age and their inexperience, but I also believe that some of them bring it on themselves and create the stereotype.
Yes, I feel it's very unfair that millennials are automatically deemed as lazy or immature. A lot of us were raised differently. A lot of us are raised with a good work ethic, and a lot of us are raised with the ability to go out there and have the determination to be successful.
Laziness in general, just from, I guess, older generations.
Are there any stereotypes that you can crush right now with past experience?
And I think the culture is changing. I think it's becoming more and more apparent that while a millennial typically has a bit different style when it comes to their learning or work product, they're still as productive as someone who's in a different age category. So I think that would have been a stereotype I would have said needs to go to the wayside. I think it is changing. So I guess just continual acknowledgement by the public that they are a responsible and dedicated and a dependable work or staff member for any team.
Being lazy, for sure. I am one of those employees where I'm there 10 minutes early, I'm there 10 minutes after. I'm always available for people to call on sick days and stuff like that, of course, unless I have other obligations, but I turn my work into my life when I'm working.
Actually, I have a friend of mine. She runs her own daycare. She's a very successful businesswoman. She's about my age, so I'm technically a millennial. I'm born in the 90s, and she's owns her own house, runs her own business, and one of the most hardworking women I've ever met in my life.
How would you explain their work ethic?
Sometimes they have awesome work ethics and sometimes they don't, and I don't think it has necessarily a lot to do with the generation. I think it just has to do with people in general. It depends on how you were raised, it depends on your school, it depends on there's so many other things that factor into how their work ethic is. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's because they're millennials.
I'd say it's pretty polarized. There's some guys and gals that are super good and some that are maybe a little entitled on top of things, but I mean, I don't know if that's indicative of the millennials or not, or it's just humans in general. There's millennials that have had young guys work for me that are fantastic, knows the grindstone, and they go hard. And that's awesome. I've had older people doing that as well. So
it's no different than it was in my day, as far as I'm concerned.
Are there any skill sets that set millennials apart from the older generation?
I think that they're able to process information very quickly and very, very good at searching and sort of finding things.
Okay.
And by that I mean finding information, looking, if you have to change a tire, they'd be quick to go to like YouTube and look it up, see how it's done, and then try it that route versus sort of expertise or skills.
Bullheadedness, actually. They're really hard to change their mind. I have a relatively open mind, I like to think. I think that would help me in future jobs and whatnot, just to learn. And I think I'll go back to my dad, for example. Worked on the range for 25 years. He has a certain way he does things and doesn't want to change that. And recently getting laid off, you can tell he still doesn't have a job. So I think the bullheadedness is what sets us apart from older generations.
That they're very resilient, very adaptable, very quick to change, very accepting of change, flexibility. Yeah.
How do you feel millennials will affect our future?
Hopefully for the better, because there may be more honesty and more integrity in the way they view things than in my generation, which was usually looking for shortcuts.
They're going to be very flexible. They're going to be able to handle change, can certainly process change easier than other generations. And they're going to be willing and able to kind of adapt on the fly.
I want to say positively because of our education system in the country, especially in Alberta with our universities. You know, they're pretty diverse.
Do you feel that you would work harder for a fairer treatment over a higher pay?
Yes. I feel that it's very, very important for employers to appreciate their staff and the work that they do, regardless of how much they pay. Usually that is, it's portrayed in the pay and shown in the pay that they get. But yeah, if fair treatment and respect and appreciation is definitely something that makes employees work harder.
Yes, actually, I completely agree with that. Jobs go much better if you are treated well. You're gonna keep the hardworking employees if you treat them well. Pay comes with time and experience, but you can have dime a dozen of people that you can pay millions of dollars. Doesn't mean they're gonna stick around if the management's horrible.
Nobody likes getting discriminated against or feeling unequal, so I think I'd agree with that.
Give me an example of a work environment where you were uncomfortable with but ended up liking in the end, and how did you make the workplace better?
Well, I'm a really big fan of construction, that's what I want to get into. Over the summer, I started working with my sister's uncle, or my sister's boyfriend's uncle. And at first it was awkward because I didn't know them, but I just started talking more, and then I eventually got to get to know them. Okay. So that kind of eased into the work environment.
Probably when I first started managing, when I was working in Shoe Warehouse, that was a very uncomfortable situation. I was a part-time employee at the very beginning of my journey there and went from part-time to management. There was no in-between there, and that was uncomfortable for me to get through with the other employees, right? Because they had seen me as another fellow employee for so long. What made it easier was acting like I was still that employee. No, not barking orders, things like that. Saying please and thank you, and those little initiatives, those little prizes and things like that, Okay, well, when you guys get this done, you're gonna get, $5 off free shoes, or, something like that kind of thing. And that kind of helped everybody realize, okay, well, maybe she's not gonna be quite as bad as we thought.
I worked at a golf course when I was younger, so at first it's super hard to get experienced in stuff like golf because it's such a huge learning curve. So at the beginning it was definitely tough getting used to knowing everybody and everything, but once I started getting better and knowing the work environment more, it was really good.
Like many generations before, the millennial generation has tied to it a spectrum of stereotypes and nicknames based on these stereotypes. Just to name a few: Generation Y, the Internet generation, Echo Boomers, and Generation Now. Also very much like Generation X, the younger generation has high expectations tied to it by an older, more experienced generation raised in a dramatically different era. Despite varying differences such as the advance in technology in our age and the different parenting styles, this generation is overall a hardworking, passionate, and dedicated group of individuals that place a little more value on quality than quantity, a work style unheard of in previous generations. To finalize the point being made, it only makes sense to showcase a few of the younger generation's accomplishments. A few well-known millennials worth a mention are Mark Zuckerberg, born May 14, 1984. He would be classified as a millennial at being 32 years old. He was a computer programmer by the age of 12. He created ZuckNet, a messaging program for his family to exchange e-messages from across the home. He went on to create an early version of the music software Pandora, which he called Synapse. The creation of Synapse attracted AOL and Microsoft, who wanted to hire him before he finished high school. He declined the offer. His sophomore year of Harvard, he created CourseMatch, a website originally made for his peers to match students with the courses they'd need. And FaceMash, a social media site used to rate the attractiveness of peers. This same year, he also created the beginning stages of Facebook, known then as the Facebook. There were 1 million users by the end of 2004, and he turned down multiple offers from Yahoo and MTV to focus on expanding his work rather than selling out. December 10th, he signed Bill Gates' Giving Pledge, promising to donate 50% of his wealth to charity over the course of his lifetime. November 2015, he made a pledge with his wife to donate 99% of Facebook shares to charities around the world. The following year in September, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, a limited liability company created by Zuckerberg and Chan when their daughter was born, would invest at least $3 billion into scientific research over the next decade to help cure, prevent, and manage all diseases in our children's lifetime, as well as advance human potential and promote equality in areas such as health, education, scientific research, and energy. Another even younger example from Generation Y would be Boyan Slat, born July 27, 1994. He was a Dutch inventor, entrepreneur, and aerospace engineering student by the age of 18. Slat then quit his aerospace engineering studies and led a team of 100 people to start an organization called the Ocean Cleanup. This won a prize for Best Technical Design at Delft University of Technology. The Ocean Cleanup, founded by 19-year-old Boyan Slat, believe that they may have a viable solution to clean up ocean trash. Following a year-long study involving extensive scientific research, the organization has recently released a feasibility report which concludes that their novel method to remove plastic from the oceans is both technically and financially viable. Furthermore, if employed, computer models predict that within 10 years, they could reduce the plastic within the infamous Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which has been previously deemed impossible to clean up, by almost 50%. How does it work? Their method exploits natural ocean currents and winds, which passively transport garbage towards a collection platform. Solid floating barriers are then used to catch and concentrate the trash from the ocean, negating the risk of wildlife entanglement and vertebrate bycatch, which are problems with other techniques, such as nets. And finally, a clip from Kevin O'Rourke's TED Talk, How to Make Millennials Want to Work for You, that does a great job summarizing our generation in the workplace.
What it comes down to is it's a clear indicator that my generation places a strong value on the fulfillment that we get out of work. We don't want to spend 1/3 of our lives doing something that we hate. I don't think that's a crazy philosophy. What this means is that we want to do work we're passionate about and work for someone we're passionate about. Both must be present for us truly to feel fulfilled. So what does this mean for employers? Are you doomed by the emergence of millennials in the workplace? No, not at all. What it means is you'll have to adapt and change to the new wave of employees. Honestly, in most ways it'll be for the better. If you don't offer some of the key things that I spoke about today, well, somebody else will. And if they don't, who knows? We may start a company that competes with yours by rallying some of the greatest minds of our generation. So now that you've heard what I have to say, let me try to paint you a different picture. Hello, my name is Kevin O'Rourke. I'm a creative, independent, motivated free thinker who just wants to be happy. Or more simply put, I'm a millennial. Thank you.
Employers may find themselves having an easier time hiring and working with today's youth if, instead of classifying them as lazy, entitled, and selfish, They started calling them progressive, driven, and flexible, just to change a few things. Treating the millennial generation more like pupils you can learn something from, rather than inexperienced students who need only to be taught.